One, two, three, four. No, literally, 4 updates in this one video. Hello, my fam. It is Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and your #1 source for everything It Ends With Us saga. Let's do this in order from quickest to meatiest. As you may know, you probably do if you watch my videos, there is the federal trial that is happening right now in the deposition phase we're at in New York, which Judge Lyman is overseeing. And concurrently, in the state of Texas, Bully Lively and Jed Wallace, the digital samurai that worked for Team Baldoni, are also suing each other in the Lone Star State. Well, just a little bit ago, Jed Wallace filed a notice with the court and Judge Lyman letting them know, quote, Jed Wallace and Street Relations, his company, filed a first amended complaint in Jed Wallace and Street Relations Incorporated versus Blake Lively. The amended complaint dropped the declaratory judgment claim against Miss Lively. As such, only 1 count of defamation against Miss Lively remains. So it seems like minor change there. So let's park it and keep it moving, okay? Oh God, this one's gonna be difficult to explain, but I'm gonna do my best. Remember how most of this drama began because his former publicist, Stephanie Jones, fired his still publicist, Jen Abel, and upon firing her, got her cell phone and laptop, and then allegedly, illegally, obtained access to both private and business communications. And that very same day, Stephanie Jones shared some of those messages with Gaslight Girl alum Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan. Stephanie was actually the first one to file any lawsuit. Hers was breach of contract back in December before Team Blondie filed her lawsuit. And since that first lawsuit, there have been multiple lawsuits and so many countless motions. One of those motions was by Jen Abel, his current publicist, claiming that she, in the capacity that she was an employee at the time of Stephanie Jones, should be indemnified for anything that she did on behalf of Jones Works. And now, moments ago, Stephanie Jones submitted a reply in further support of its motion to dismiss Jennifer Abel's third-party complaint seeking indemnification. Stephanie Jones, through her lawyer, says today, quote, Jennifer Abel seeks to have it both ways. She alleges in counterclaims before this court that she was pursuing her own agenda despite being hindered in her efforts by her employer. Yet here, she reverses course, claiming that her efforts fall under the purview of indemnification. She cannot do both, and her plea for indemnification must fail. I'm finding it hard to swallow this. It goes on to say, in opposition, Abel tellingly runs away from her own words and admissions, tacitly acknowledging that the text messages that she has admitted to sending and receiving and her parallel filings doom her claims. You know what? I'm not even going to read anymore because Stephanie Jones is full of caca. This is laughable. Lots of wasted words here about Cruella Lively's amended complaint, which is a separate lawsuit. I think it's irrelevant, but Stephanie Jones doesn't. It'll be interesting. Stephanie Jones argues that even though Jen Abel worked in California, she was bound by New York law. Jones Works had an office in Los Angeles, but it was started and based in New York. That could be a strong argument. Perhaps the only other strong argument here, quote, Abel does not plausibly allege that her harmful conduct was within the scope of her employment. It wasn't harmful, and it was, but this actually is something to chew and consider. But she's still full of hot air, Stephanie Jones. Speaking of hot air, Child USA has filed their amicus brief in support of the potty-trained princess's motion to dismiss and urges the court to uphold the constitutionality of California Civil Code 47.1. We've talked about that. That is the law that was passed recently in California meant to shield true victims of sexual harassment from unnecessary defamation lawsuits by their predators. Real victims of sexual harassment. Also, technically, they haven't yet filed it. They filed a move for leave. This is real technical. They're basically asking for permission to submit this amicus brief, which they included. It's like 42 pages long. This is basically like expert witness testimony that you would see at trial. And this proposed brief, all 42 pages, the only time Blake Lively is mentioned is in the cover page. There's no need to go into this, except for the very last page, where they say, conclusion, for the reasons set forth above, Amici, however you pronounce it, I'm Cuban, respectfully urge the court to uphold the constitutionality of California Civil Code 47.1 in its entirety. What a joke and a waste of the judge's time. There's 0% likelihood that this federal judge would overturn that recently passed law in California. I don't even think he could. Nor would he. Yeah, these people working in cahoots with Betty Buzzkill. And wrapping up things for this video, the fourth and final update. And yes, this is going to give you deja vu. The Baldoni Wayfarer parties have filed an opposition to Ryan Reynolds' motion for Rule 11 sanctions against Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, It Ends With Us Movie LLC, and their counsel. Remember, we talked about this recently when there was a similar motion, request for sanctions? That was 2 days ago when the Wayfarer Baldoni parties filed their opposition to Blake Lively's motion for Rule 11 sanctions. You can basically go watch that video to get the gist of this. As lawyers do, they, keep on file and repurpose things. So this opposition for sanctions uses a lot of the same verbiage. And remember, the Rule 11 sanctions was all about filing unnecessary motions that aren't grounded in law, trying to waste their time and the court's time, trying to get them to spend more money, etc., etc., etc. As they did with Blake Lively's motion for sanctions, they remind Cesspool of the law, citing cases, and why there is no cause for sanctions. Especially, he has already filed a motion to dismiss, pleading defects in their case that are substantially the same as those at the heart of his Rule 11 motion. Rule 11 is not a vehicle to challenge pleading deficiencies. This is a transparent effort to tarnish the Wayfarer parties and their counsels in the eyes of the court and the press. Literally the same line I read to you just a couple of days ago. And like they did for Delulu, Team Baldoni is now asking the court for sanctions against Ryan Reynolds. And money. They want to be compensated. This poor judge needs a massage and a vacation. And I need a raise, but I'm so thankful for your view, especially if you watched to the end. So, thoughts? Let's chat in the comments section.